This week's episode of The Grid is sponsored by Impix. Shoot today, upload tonight, we ship tomorrow. Manfrotto. Imagine more. On One Software, software that gets you back to shooting. Adorama, more than a camera store. And Tiffin, helping create the world's greatest images.
Go to the second verse. I saved all my stuff for the second. No, it's too late now. Shot Live Photo wants to start the show by saying, wow, you guys still have sponsors. They must not watch the show. We only have one sponsor. That's how things have gotten. Well, welcome everybody to The Grid. I'm Flat Top Jones. What's your blues name over there?
El Generalissimo. No.
No. Anyway, hi,
Slim.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of The Grid. We're broadcasting live from our headquarters in Tampa, Florida, high above Highway US 19. Okay, Matt's not here.
I don't even know what this thing is.
I don't know what this is. Matt's not here.
No. He's actually teaching.
He's actually teaching today here in Tampa. He's doing his Lightroom Live tour here in Tampa, and he's going to a couple other places. But before we get onto that, we have some important things. First, joining me today on the show, somebody said free bird. They always say free bird.
There's a lighter.
Free bird. Okay. Joining me on the show today, sitting in for Matt, is my friend, RC Concepcion.
Hey, everybody. How are you?
I'm very pleased with RC today because I was working from home today. I'm working on a book, and I was working from home, and RC sends me a text and says, I'm stopping by Matt's seminar in downtown Tampa. Do you want me to stop by and get you a 1905 salad from the Columbia restaurant? He brought us both salads. He brought my son a Cuban sandwich, and we sat outside and ate, and we had this discussion, which turned into this topic for today's show, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But first, before we do that, hold on, I gotta get my guitar for this. Some call her the Space Cowboy. Some call her the International Ambassador of Love. Some people call her, that's all we have it here for.
That's what I sound like whenever I try to play electric guitar. That's what it sounds like. I always sounds like a giant accident happening in my hands.
Some people call her Nancy Massey. Hey, Frenchie.
Hey, Scott.
Bonjour.
Hey, RC. Glitter hands.
Blur hands. How are you?
I am doing very well. How are you?
Very good. So Nancy is here. She moderates your comments. She lets 22% of them through. No, unless you say something really mean, I think she lets you through. And even then, I think she just yells back at you, right?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Brad Moore is helping us on the set today, as always, helping us out here on this side, as is Pistol Pete Collins, Pete the Juice Collins. And we have various and sundry other people helping us that we'll not name them because, well,
union.
They're union and they're mean, actually. Meredith, very, very mean. Juan, you can't imagine. Kuna back in the control room is just brutal. Anyway, hey, Glenn Dewis says, why do I get the urge to grab a whiskey and cigar? Hey, if you want to send some snarky comments in, here's how you do it.
Matter of fact, we're encouraging you to send snarky
You can just put them right here
on
on the page, or if you prefer to go to Twitter, if you put them to the hashtag #TheGridLive, it comes right to us. So, hey, we have a very, very wild show today. Just a couple little housekeeping things we got to get to before we do. I mentioned that Matt is not here. He's teaching in Tampa. If you want to catch Matt on his last two tour dates of the year, he's going to be in Dallas, Texas on November 7th, and he'll be in Philadelphia on December 1st. You can find out about those at Kelby Training rc.com/live. So, or whatever address that they put up on the screen, who knows what that will be. But you can go there and check them out live. All right, my tour dates. I've got some tour dates. My last tour dates of the year are coming up. I will be in San Francisco.
Very jealous about that one.
I know. RC almost got to go with me, just kind of hang out.
It is close.
And Brad's going, no, RC, you can't go. See, I thought Brad was going to miss a date. He was going to miss Seattle, right? Are you still going to miss Seattle? No, he's going to be there.
That's November 21st.
November 21st, I'm in Seattle.
That's
and
right.
San Francisco, November 14th. I hope you'll come out and spend the day with me. We're going to have a blast with my Light It, Shoot It, Retouch It tour. And in honor of that, we have some prizes today. We'll be giving away a copy of my Light It, Shoot It, Retouch It book, which is fairly new, and a ticket to either one of my or Matt's seminars. We'll be giving away
Very cool.
2 tickets, so you can choose. 2 people will be able to choose which city they want to go to.
That's mighty bluesy of you.
I think it's very bluesy. I feel kind of bluesy. All right. We'll grab this paper because the teleprompter is stuck. It's moving now. Hey, I do want to talk about something that this is a mini. So we're introducing a couple of new segments today. I'll tell you about one in a moment. This one is my nitpick of the week. I figure if I get it out of my system real quick, then I can just focus on the rest of the show. So I've been noticing a lot of this on my blog, on Facebook, on my Google Plus account, where people will say stuff like, I don't mean to sound negative, but, and then they'll go on this incredibly negative tirade, or they'll go, I don't mean to be that guy, but, and then they become that guy. So yesterday, my brother sends me an iPhone photo. He's in JFK Airport in New York City, as was RC just recently. I was there for a day. Yeah. He's in the airport, and he just happens to see a newsstand. And on the newsstand, the top rack is all books about Steve Jobs. And the next 3 racks are like every magazine cover, Forbes, Times, Newsweek, all with pictures of Steve Jobs. And he just sends it to me with the word amazing. I was like, wow. So I called my brother, go, bro, can I put that on my Google Plus? Sure, it's an iPhone photo. So I put it up there, and I just told that story I just told you. And people came up and said, well, that's interesting. He's fascinating. And then, of course, a couple of people have to chime in with, long live PC. That was nice. The guy's dead. Okay, so anyway, somebody said, please, Scott, stop with the fanboy stuff.
Nice.
I only mentioned Steve one time the day he died, but now it's fanboy stuff. So, and then the last one was, and this is the one I want to read to you. So the guy, he writes, I don't mean to detract in any way from all Steve Jobs did, but as the CNN obituary notes, he stood on the shoulders of other great men. You know what? Here's what I would ask everybody that's going to comment on Facebook. Just stop with the, I don't mean to do that, and then turn around and do it. Just leave that part off. That guy could have just started with, as CNN obituary notes, he stood on the shoulders of other great men. So don't pretend that you're being nice and then turn around and do exactly what hey, Catch Life Photo just wrote, we all know that but really means forget about what I just said. Very good. Excellent.
I don't mean to sound negative.
I don't mean to sound negative, but I'm going to. I don't mean to be that guy, but here I go.
When you say that, you pretty much guarantee you're going to be that guy.
I don't mean to detract in any way from all that Steve Jobs did, but here goes my shot at detracting from what Steve Jobs did. Yeah. All right. So, but anyway, that's not really about Steve Jobs, but it's just about other stuff. Hey, on November 17th, we have a very special bonus episode.
Extra.
First, we have Joe McNally here on the day before, the 16th, right? Doing a live webcast. Because we're going to launch his class called A Day with Joe McNally. And I did it with him, and it's amazing. Not because of anything that I did, but we started at Joe's house.
Right.
Watched why he packs the stuff he does. We pack up the truck. We drive to Manhattan. We go to a very cool location. We do a bunch of shoots with usually just one SB900 and maybe 2 on a couple of occasions. So it's Joe going really lean and mean and getting amazing shots. And then we had this long ride back across the bridge and everything. And I just nailed him on a bunch of stuff I wanted to know. And he would give me some softball answers, and I would make him answer.
Nice.
And he did. He revealed some things to me, and I was like, I knew it.
But it's one of those things where a lot of the times, like Kelby Training does a lot of different, dissection of stuff. So you learn photography, you learn this, you learn that. But sometimes you need to kind of watch a class where you're just kind of over the shoulder for somebody. And you're just kind of watching them do their thing, and you'd be surprised as to how many little nuggets of, like when you did A Day with Jay Maisel, you pick up all of these things that just happen right off the cuff.
And all these things happened as Joe was doing this thing. Some of it was just, things would go wrong on the set. He'd have to fix them. And Joe's a teacher by nature, so he would turn and tell you. He would say,
Right.
hey, this is going on, it's going on. But, of course, things show up that he didn't expect, and the situation showed up that he didn't expect, and a bunch of my questions I don't think he expected. But he answered them, and none of it was like he was cheating, but it's just I've heard Joe's, many times over the years. He's trained for us and done tours for us and things. So I got to finally ask him a couple of these questions where I go, Joe, what about this and the other? And he goes, oh, this and that. And I go, there's more to it than that. And I would keep pressing him. He goes, okay. And then he would go that extra step. And I had a couple of aha moments on that trip that I can't wait for it to air.
Nice.
So on the 16th, Joe McNally will be here for now we're going to show it one time for free for everybody. So anybody can come and watch, right? Isn't that the deal, Nancy? Mm-hmm. Everybody can watch. Joe will be live in the studio, take your questions, one big one, and then it goes back behind Kelby Training to the subscribers after that. But so a one-time show for everybody. Joe will be here live. Should be fun. Coming up the 16th. We're also the 17th, the very next day, we have Jeremy Cowart here on the Grid as a special. So we're doing a Grid Wednesday and a special bonus issue next Thursday. It's not a bonus issue. It's an episode. And on that episode, we're going to talk about Help Portrait. Just all about Help Portrait, how to get involved, what it is, why you want to do it. Questions and answers with Jeremy. Should be a lot of fun. Special bonus episode next Thursday.
That's awesome. That's a great. And, if you haven't seen it, make sure you take a look at the website, help-portrait.com. This is really one of those moments that I think that everybody should be a part of. You get the opportunity to be a photographer. You get the opportunity to be able to make pictures, go out and help your fellow man. Make sure you take a look at the Help-Portrait website and make sure that you tune in for Jeremy. I think it's going to be really, really good stuff.
Absolutely. Hey, we have a new segment we're launching today at the end of the show. Uh-oh, Nancy wants to say something. Nancy, please.
I have a shameless plug, too.
Nance Waugh has a shameless plug, please.
do.
Plug away
I do.
before we get into the meat of things.
I just wanted to tell everyone in the UK and Europe that is watching, Dave Clayton is our NAP UK evangelist, and he does a lot of stuff with Glenn Dewis. Just all about NAP, and they're organizing like this whole cool thing, getting everyone to come to Photoshop World. And he just launched a special contest for everyone watching in the UK and Europe called Light It, Shoot It, Retouch It Experience. And there's a lot of really cool prizes, including Scott's book, because we sent over a suitcase of stuff for Dave and Glenn. So they put together this great contest. And you actually get some studio time, too, so you can read Scott's book and then put it to use. So if you are in the UK, go to napmember.co.uk, and all the details are there.
Nice.
That's it.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
That was well delivered.
Why, thank you.
All righty. Okay, we have a new segment we're going to add to the show. I don't know if Nancy knows about this, but I'm sure she's not going to like it.
Oh, boy.
It's called Ask Us Really Personal Questions, as we squirm in our seats. So RC and I are going to take questions at the end of the show about anything. So you can ask us anything about anything. You can ask us about Matt, who's not here, and we will give you honest answers. Now, don't ask things that you know that we're not going to answer, like boxers are brief.
Banana hammocks.
By the
so
way,
many comments.
it's boxers and mine are clear.
Banana
Anyway,
hammocks.
So what'd you say?
Banana hammocks.
Banana hammocks. So don't ask really, questions that there's no way, that it's just way too personal, However, about anything else, we'll answer about anything about photography, about business, about whatever.
It's very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable.
I feel very revealed after
So
saying the
be
banana
thinking
hammocks
about
thing.
that, because that's coming up after our main topic. And then our main topic today, after this break, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, is working harder enough to make it as a photographer today? We have a very different take on this. It's probably not what you're thinking. It's based on a video that RC posted on Google Plus a couple of days ago. It started this conversation at lunch today. That is now the topic of the Grid today. And when we come back, we'll have that and a whole bunch more. Don't go away. Right here on the Grid with RC.
At Adorama, our trained staff share your love of photography and can help you find what you're looking for. Our inventory is stocked with all types of cameras and accessories you need. Adorama has it all. Adorama, more than just a camera store. Visit us at 42 West 18th or at adorama.com.
Hi, this is Tom Bull. Wait till you see my new video on adventure sports for Kelby Training. Whoa. to get these kind of shots, you gotta go where the action is. This is the official rock climbing stance shot. Not many people could do it. Lisa's well known for her climbing ability. Oh my God, that's so good. Amazing. Work it, Lisa. Awesome. Perfect. Oh, I love that angle. Phenomenal. Nice. Work it. Shake out. Whoa, man. Are those cows down there? They look like little specks. Lisa, wait a second. Where are you going? Hold on. Hey, hold on. Hey. Can somebody get me down here? Hello? Come on, I need some help.
All right.
That's when you turn around and go, thank you very much, San Dimas.
San Dimas.
San Dimas High School football rules.
San Dimas High School football rules. Okay. Hey, we are back. Two things we forgot to mention. We have got a special free webinar coming up just for NAP members. It is with Faye Circus, who is a brilliant painter, illustrator. She takes photographs and turns them into paintings. Using Photoshop. She's doing a class called Painting with Your Camera, the new Photoshop art studio. It's just for NAP members, and it's coming up on the 14th, right, Nance?
Yes, the 14th.
The 14th. So if you're a NAP member, go to the NAP member website. They'll have all the details there, and you can watch and everything for free.
Free.
It's free.
Free.
All right. So your comments are streaming, and we'll be taking your comments. Hernay or Hearn?
Herney.
Herney?
Hernay.
Hernay.
I think it's Hernay. Hernay sounds good.
He's Canadian. I don't know if he's French Canadian, so I'd say Hernay.
All right. Says Scott reveals that he secretly shoots 3/4 of his photos with a 50mm.
I saw a really cool comment. I think it was from Dave Clayton. He said that you're becoming the Piers Morgan of COVID. And I was like,
who is Piers Morgan?
Piers Morgan's some British guy that everybody opens up to because he's British.
Oh, okay.
It's like apparently like it's
people open up to me in a different way. They just
you're
get
from
angry.
England. It's okay. I'll tell you all my secrets.
All right. So today's topic, for those of you now that we've brought this puppy around, today's topic is just working harder. So it's working harder. Enough to make it as a photographer today. So RC asked me today at lunch. He said, "Have you seen this video?" So tell us about the video that kind of sparked this whole thing.
Yeah, it was it was a kind of a mashup video that talked a little bit about motivation and what you need to be able to do. And it was it's Eric, the hip hop preacher, who's doing some stuff with athlete. It's like this Eastern Carolina athlete. And it's a very slow start of a video, and it's this guy training, and this guy's talking about, the hip-hop preacher's talking a little bit about motivation and how to be successful. And basically, he tells this story of a man who goes to an older man and says, how am I successful? The older man turns around and tells him, all right, walk on the water with me, walk along the water. So he gets him really, really deep in the water and basically holds his head underwater. Right before this guy's about to pass out, he turns around and he pulls him up and he says, listen, if you've got to want success as much as you want to breathe. And when you want to breathe, if you want it that bad, you can have it. And it talks about the general thing. And I don't want to, that's kind of one view of it, but it's a really cool video. I found that to be a very motivational video.
Yeah, because it shows this like athlete training unbelievably behind him, like someone that has really put their whole heart and soul into their training. So you can see, and this guy, I mean, he's
good.
He's good. This guy's working. So he's training in the background while the hip hop preacher tells this story up over it.
And there's videos of the preacher doing that by himself, like in a classroom, which is I think where he did it. But the mashup I thought was really, really good, and there was music in the background that was really, really good. So everything all together was one of those kind of things where you're sitting there and you're going, wow, this is really, really cool. But he talks about, he's like, you know, some people just kind of want it. You kind of want to be successful, but you don't want it more than you want sleep. You don't want it more than you want to go out with your friends. You don't want it more than any of that stuff. When you want it as bad as you want breathing, then you'll become successful. And I can resonate. That resonated with me a little bit. Right? I turned around and I was like, this is pretty good. I can actually see something like that because I think that you need to work hard to do this. Then he goes back and he quotes 50. Yes.
50 Cent.
50.
Not 50.
So he quotes 50.
You were so white.
He quotes 50 Cent.
50 centavos.
So he quotes 50 at saying that I guess 50 was doing this movie. 50 was doing this movie.
50, thank you.
You know, like we do.
Yeah,
So-
you know.
So he's doing this movie, and in the middle of doing the movie, when he wasn't doing the movie, he was doing the soundtrack. And they ask him, and they're like, well, Fiddy, when do you sleep? And he's like, sleep is for those who are broke. And he's like, I never sleep. I'm always looking. Basically, it's the entire thing. You got to be willing to sacrifice all of these things to be successful. So I march in with Scott with this, and I'm like, this is awesome. You need to be able to work harder than the next person. That's how you do it. We all work really, really hard. And as I ran to Scott, I was like, Scott, what do you think?
And I said, I agree.
Well, time for break.
Okay, so well, I will break it down first because I'm putting this in the context of photography.
Right.
Because I know that there's a lot of photographers that are struggling out there today. And I personally know photographers who 5 years ago were killing it. They were doing great. And today they literally have nothing to do. I mean, they're struggling to do anything. So when he told me this thing, and here you're talking about, and RC was to telling me, so, here's Fiddy talking. Like the way I threw that in, like it's just regular.
That's how you roll.
I threw Fiddy. So Fiddy's, that's how I roll. Fiddy's talking, and he's talking about, man, you only need to sleep 2 hours a night. And you got to work and work and work, and opportunities are here and opportunities are there. You just got to go get them. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? For Fiddy, there probably are opportunities to fill 22 hours a day. People are probably calling him, I want you on the cover of this magazine. I want you working on this soundtrack. I want you to. That's not the life of photographers today. Photographers aren't sitting there in their studio and the phones are just ringing off the hook and they're going, please come and shoot the cover of my magazine. Please come out to the studio and shoot these artists in that. I mean, it's happening for a couple of people, right? But by and large, so for example, I know a photographer up north. And he's the guy I'm talking about. He had all this business, right? And the business has literally just evaporated. And he did a lot of portraits of business executives, a lot of things like that. Well, that business has completely dried up. So it's like to tell him you need to work harder, you need to work 22 hours a day. He can't get enough work to work 2 hours a day. So what are his options as this is his life, his photography? Is he going to go shoot weddings? Now, how hard is that market? What will the rest of the wedding photographers who are struggling going, oh, good, the portrait guy, the guy who did those, who really isn't a wedding photographer, is now going to go slice up our market even further. And so when I heard that, I looked at RC and I go, I understand about the whole motivational thing. And I do agree, hard work is really important. And very few people are ever going to be a success without it. But just thinking that if I work 22 hours a day, I'll be a success, that's the part. If you're Fiddy, you have opportunities that would fill 28 hours a day. Mm-hmm. But for this guy, he just wants to book a 2-hour shoot. Mm-hmm. And he's working, he's spending all of his time, he's going out and networking, he's doing all these things, and he's going everywhere he can to try to get 2 hours a day in his studio. There's not 22 hours of work. And so what really came about, the conversation then came about is, well, how does a photographer make it today? Mm-hmm. And so, because you can put as much hard, you can get great, and here's where I think the talent and thing falls apart. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine years ago. If you are the number one tennis player in the world, you are number one. You've got sponsor money, you've got tour money, you're phenomenally successful. If you're the number one golfer, you have money, sponsors, you're phenomenally successful. If you're on the number one football team, same thing. But you could be the best photographer in the United States, and your day job could be the fry cook at Burger King. Because this is art. What that means is that the best doesn't necessarily, no one says you're the best and therefore you get this sponsor and this money. It's like a guitar. When I originally told this story, I told it to a friend of mine who was so frustrated because he was so good at his instrument. And he's like, why aren't I making it? And I'm like, you're great, but that's not what it takes to make it in business. You're in Tampa, Florida, and you can't believe your phone's not ringing. It's like, what connections do you have to get you to that next level? Are you just going to sit home and go, man, I hope somebody finds my phone number and just calls me. And I think that a lot of us are kind of in that spot where if we don't do something else, and that's what I'm trying to lead this around to my story to the musician. So years and years ago, I played in a band, and we were playing at a Holiday Inn, so we were doing phenomenally well.
That's good.
You know when you're playing at the Holiday Inn.
You're moving up.
Woo, it was huge. All right. So we're playing at a Holiday Inn. And as it turns out, the bar back working in the place that we're playing, he wants to come up and jam with us. And we're like, nah, I don't know, dude. You know, you're not going to let the bar back come up and play with your band on a Saturday night. But he came up and played, and we were like this. I mean, the guy was unbelievable. What we found out later was he had graduated with honors from the Berklee School of Music. He had won, I guess, whatever the biggest jazz guitar award a college student can win, he won it. But then when it was time to get a job, he was a bar back at the Holiday Inn. So if you think being in a band at the Holiday Inn is bad, you're not even the bartender. You're the guy that cleans the glasses for the bartender. And this guy was unbelievable. And it's the thing that's unfair about art. How many artists do you know, RC, that are celebrated artists? I don't mean photographers, but their stuff is hanging in a museum, and you would walk up to this museum and go, it is a giant black square with a red dot.
Yep.
How did this person get here? I remember being in the Museum of Modern Art in Paris. There is a stand, like a column, with a head of lettuce, a packet of sugar, and a nail through it. And it was an exhibit, and that was like it was a room that was like 100 by 100, and a light, and there it is, cabbage, sugar, nail, and I'm thinking, this guy is
you guys
good,
dude.
You got boned. So, but anyway, and so then you have these unbelievable. They're like you'll go on Flickr, and you'll see people.
And maybe not like on 500px, but
on 500px. Oh, on 500px you see it every day. But what about that guy in the Philippines? That's just so unbelievable. And he's just, here's a shot I took last week. And you're like, I'm throwing my gear away. And so I guess what I'm coming down to is hard work is absolutely important. But you've got to get to a point in your career where you can work 22 hours a day. How do you get there? And this is where RC and I differ on how we get there. If I were sitting down with someone that's really saying, hey, man, I need to get a break here, I would tell them, you know what you need to focus on the next year? You need to focus on buying Scott's products. No, nice. You need to focus. Nancy,
I'm giving you my card
Nancy
right now.
laughed that way. No, you need to focus on making connections. Because the older I get, the more I realize how much of success is somebody else opening a door for you. Is somebody else saying, hey, check this out. I'll give you an example. When this whole business started off, I went to a users group meeting, and I'm at the users group meeting. Afterwards, it is a sworn thing of users groups everywhere in the world. For Macintosh users group photography, you must go for pie afterwards. It's in the bylaws of everything. So we're having pie at Village Inn, and we come up with the idea, just kind of talking about doing a Photoshop seminar. Sitting at the end of the table, I kid you not, is the Florida rep for Adobe at the table. And I'd met him a couple weeks before, and he was, and I knew him down there, and I went, I'm going to go ask him. And I went down there and I said, would you consider having Adobe? This is like 15 years ago. No, it was 1993.
17. That's not that bad.
17 years ago.
It's okay.
I said, would you consider sponsoring a seminar if we did it on Photoshop? And this is Photoshop 2 was out. And he said, hey, not only will I sponsor it, we'll be the official sponsors. I'll provide software. I'll teach a class. I'll have a booth. I'll do this. I'll put up sponsorship money. I would have never called the Adobe rep if we hadn't all been at breakfast together, and I knew the Adobe rep from he spoke at that thing that night. And so he opened the door for me to get into the seminar business. Mm-hmm. And it's just so many times a door opens or something because somebody wants to help you. What I would spend the next year doing is making connections, because like for my friend, he needs to find somebody. He needs somebody to pick up the phone and call him, but they're never going to find him sitting in his underwear at home in Tampa, Florida.
Right.
He'd have to go to Nashville. He'd have to go there. But when you get to Nashville, he isn't the only drummer in Nashville. He isn't the only guy. You know what I mean? It's like you have to go where these places are. So, hey, we've got a lot of comments coming in here. But so, RC, I want to look at the comments real quick. And then your take was a little different on this because you were into the...
Yeah, I was into that. There's a certain amount of that gets... So I got a bunch of stuff to say for that. But let me just... I'll read a comment. Luis Labrador.
No, that's not Luis. Is it Luis?
Luis Labrador.
Aren't you Spanish?
Luis Labrador. Sorry. I believe that working harder can put you at the edge more often than not, but nothing is guaranteed. I want to get to that one, but we'll do that in a second. Work smarter. Is success about money or happiness? No, it's about money.
No, it's about happiness.
No, I think it's money.
No, it's not about money.
Why can't it be
Because you know
both?
what? Why can't it be both? No, but you know why? Because how many people have a ton of money and they spend a lot of it on therapy?
Yeah.
Because what happens is if you get a lot of money and you're still miserable, then what? Because I think a lot of people think, man, if I only had money, all of my problems will go away. Your life will get easier, but your problems are still your problems. If you wake and you still have fights with your wife, you still have, I don't have fights with my wife, but I'm just saying, if you have fights with your wife, if you have bad children, I don't have bad children, I have killer children. If you have fights with your mother-in-law, I love my mother-in-law. I really have a great life. I have happiness, yay. But if those things don't go away with money unless you can actually pay off your kids and stuff.
Right. No, it is about happiness.
But I think it is about happiness, but for RC, it's really about money.
Oh,
okay,
yes.
Monty.
If I draw a cartoon of Einstein, does that mean that I'm drawing smarter? The best skill an artist can possess is being adaptive to change. What worked 10 years ago is unlikely to work now. Yeah, but even if you're adapting, you still need to be found. And I think that's the point. You need to be discovered.
Yeah, how are you going to make those doors open for you? Because, I mean, now, do you have a better chance of being discovered today, RC, than we did 5 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
Absolutely.
My goodness. Yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of doors that are open now. You know, I can walk into a lot more places and go, hey, and I don't have to sell. A lot of the times they're like, oh my God, thank God you're here. It's like, here, here, I have this, or I have this, or I have this.
Yeah, no, RC, so I will say, to your credit, RC generally works very hard. He's a very, very hardworking guy.
Thank you very much.
But RC has worked very hard to build his name as a photographer. And I'm going to sound like I'm poking fun when I say this, RC, but I'm really not. But RC takes his iPad everywhere he goes. It is like a part of his body. But RC has, the reason why he carries it everywhere is because he has his portfolio on there. RC has opened so many doors by showing his portfolio and go, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'd like to do this for you and all. And how many doors does that thing open?
Yeah, and you know what? This thing is paid for itself over many times over.
You've sold prints off of doors that you opened with that iPad
than anything
that
else.
Paid for 10 iPads.
Yeah,
so.
And it's one of those things where it's like and truth and to be frank about it, when I first started doing this and getting into this as many years ago as I did, which isn't that many. I've had to work really hard at making connections and talking to people and getting to a point like talking like Dav D said. Joel Grimes mentioned that he had to cold call people daily to be successful. I had to work really, really hard at going to people and going, "Hey, I'm RC, how you doing? Nice to meet you." This, that, the other, making connections. And now it's gotten a lot better. But it's something that I've had to put a lot of effort in, and
but now,
the iPad's helped.
But now you could work 22 hours. You probably do work 20. RC doesn't sleep a whole lot. So I'm writing a book, and I turned into chapter last night at like 1:04 in the morning, and my assistant Kathy sent me a note this morning. She goes, "Do you ever sleep?" And I just wrote back, "Yes, mostly while driving." Anyway, but what was I going to say about the RC thing here? Hey, let me just interrupt this. Greg Cart, you wrote, "No, it is not enough. It takes more." So, Greg, if you could follow up with what your ideas are.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I like that you agree that it does take more, and I agree too. And I think it is more than just having connections. But can I tell you something? And you guys know this, and I don't mean that. I'm not picturing anybody in my mind, particularly when I say this. But we all know in your city, you know, there's a photographer that stinks, that is very successful, right? You know that Matt sent me an email of a wedding photographer. And the front page was about 30 years in the business and what makes him different and da-da-da-da-da-da. And Matt was like, dude, just click the portfolio. And I clicked it, and it was like, I kid you not, it was like you handed your kid a point and shoot. And it was like, it was like, my eyes. models. So in every city, everywhere, all over the world, you know that there's a photographer that stinks to high heaven, and you're like, so it can't be just talent, right? It can't be just working hard. I think today's success is a lot of things. Hey, Doug Evans writes, work hard and more opportunities happen. Luck? Well, definitely, if you do work hard. I think getting to the point where you can work hard, because you know what I think? Photographers, we love this stuff, right, Nance? I mean, we're crazy about this stuff. So given the opportunity to work really hard, I think most of us would really jump on it. You know, I would love to be able to shoot a lot more than I do. If I was a full-time working photographer, I would want to be full-time working. I would want to be shooting in the morning, in the afternoon, and doing a late-night shoot. You know, I would like to be working all the time. So I don't think it's that we're not willing to work hard. I think the opportunities, like for RC right now, the opportunities are great. RC's phone does ring and people are going, can you speak at my event? Can you be here? Can you do this? Can you go on tour? You know, for RC, if he decided he wanted to work 22 hours a day, he could do it no problem. But you're very, very fortunate in that. Nancy.
I just wanted to interject something really quickly.
Sure, please.
So I'm reading all the comments and I'm listening to you guys talk, and just like from what a lot of people are saying, I mean, they're like, so how do I do it? How do I get there? But this is what I want to say. Start small. I mean, don't think, you know, I want to be Scott Kelby. I want to be RC. I mean, because, you know, that takes a lot of work. But why don't you start small? Start small in your area. Get creative. Think of things that people normally wouldn't think about. Go to events. Bring your camera everywhere. You never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah,
but
networking.
Start small.
Network. Yeah,
and
great
this is gonna sound like a shameless plug, but if there's any person, I mean, aside, obviously we all believe it, but I really, really, really believe it. Photoshop World. If there's one conference that I think that people should go to, it's Photoshop World. You go and you hang with all these designers and photographers in one spot that work in all sorts of industries and do all sorts of things. And you literally have the opportunity to be able to go, take a look at my work, take a look at my work, take a look at my work. Forget about the classes. You can actually make connections enough to be able to pay for your Photoshop World attendance by just the problems that you solve and the people that you connect with and the people that you network with. These events, like if you take a look at that, you take a look at Photo Plus, you take a look at all of these other industry events, you go out there and you make yourself known. That kind of stuff does pay itself off quite a bit, but you need to kind of go out there.
Yeah.
Now, my thing with where I was going with the hard work thing, there's a couple of problems that I have. The first problem that I have is I find that to some degree, I think sometimes we don't want to work as hard sometimes. Like, perfect example, I love my iPhone. Great tool, right? Wonderful. But I can't tell you how many times people turn around and they go, oh, well, I'll just take a picture with this. It's a good picture. It's okay. It's a good picture. And a lot of the times, that's where I find the working harder thing. And I'm like, if you're just learning photography and you want to be able to really, really work at this, carry your camera. Focus on your camera. Learn your gear. Get your dribble as good as you can so that when that opportunity opens, you can just knock it out of the park. When that person turns around and goes, oh, you happen to shoot some pictures? You turn around and you get out there and you just ace it.
And nobody ever goes, hey, you have an iPhone, will you shoot my wedding?
Yeah, and that's what happens. It's like sometimes I'm like, the people that are really committed about wanting to learn their things and do their things, you do have to work hard how to be able to do that so that when that door is open, you can shine. Because, you know, the doors you can get to the party. It's what you do at the party.
Yeah, but
I think that's.
But RC, we know people who know their camera inside and out. You could blindfold them, they could rebuild it. They don't have any work.
They still have to go to the party.
Yeah, and I think that's what the problem is. We got a lot of great comments. If I can read a few of them real quick here. Ken Tony says, take care of your business and it will take care of you, which is a quote from his late dad. And that's true, right? If you take care of and that's a very, very wise, dads always have those great ones. Ooh, we lost a quote there I wanted to read. It went away real quick there. Michelle says, working harder isn't a guarantee necessarily, but not working hard is a guarantee that you will most likely not be successful at all. That is true. And you know what? She says a mouthful there, because working harder isn't a guarantee. But if you don't put the time in, that is a guarantee. So good point. Christian C says, I think hard work is a prerequisite to success in anything. But hard work alone is wasted energy without vision, direction, and something that sets you apart from the crowd. One of the best pieces of marketing advice I ever heard is, don't try to be better than the competition. Try to be different. That's very good.
That's pretty good, Christian.
Thank you, Christian.
That's
Thanks for sharing that. That's very good. So Hugo wrote one that I read here just a moment. And it's interesting. So this Hugo writes about a scene in the movie Fight Club, which I never saw Fight Club. I'm like the only person that didn't, you know. I know. Nancy's looking at me like, what? And so there's a scene in Fight Club where the guys are robbing a convenience store, and Tyler Durden is talking to the clerk from the convenience store they're robbing, and he says he asked the clerk about where he wants to be and why he's not doing it now, and he tells the clerk he's going to come back in a year and kill him if he's not taking steps to achieve that goal. Now that's the motivation right there. Yeah. If you know someone's already a felon with a gun and they say, I'm coming back in a year, I think I'd be moving on there. Did you just Nancy looks like she's
Fight Club. Yeah, I can't keep up. I'm just kidding.
Just to go.
You know what the first rule of Fight Club is?
You have to
Don't
watch
talk
the
about
movie.
Fight Club.
Hey, I've seen the movie. So
Barb's playing HDR. I know who that is. That can only be one person who was featured in RC's book about HDR.
Hey, Barb.
Hey, Barb. Barb says, isn't a lot of the problem that in this economy there are so many good cameras that almost anyone can take a picture that is good enough? Instead of really good. It's devalued the work. Johnny Carson said, the only thing money buys you is the freedom not to worry about paying your bills. It doesn't buy happiness. That is true. Hey, so let's back this up on Barb. So isn't a lot of the problem that in this economy there are so many good cameras that almost anyone can take a picture that is good enough? It certainly is part of the problem. Because you know what? There was a time where when you were a film photographer and you shot a wedding, number one, you never had to compete against a soccer mom.
Right.
You never had to compete against football dad. You never had to compete against anybody that wasn't a serious professional photographer, because making a really good photo was a craft and it was really, really hard. I've talked about this on the show before. I could hand my 5-year-old daughter a DSLR right out of the box, like just as it comes from Canon or Nikon. Put the lens on it, send her outside, and she can take a picture that is perfectly exposed. It may not be perfectly composed, but we see...
It can get close.
It can get close.
She's got a good vantage point.
She's got a good vantage point, nice low perspective. But so I do think in some ways that has caused a problem, Barb, is that you have to be so much better to stand out. Now, instead of there being 11 wedding photographers in your town, there are 1,100 potential wedding photographers. And instead of a lot of wedding photographers getting the job, they're like, and I've heard this again and again, my cousin Larry has
I got a guy.
Good camera. My cousin Larry's got a good camera. As if the good camera would make, you know, anyway, it's very frustrating, but I hear you, Barb. I feel your pain. And by the way, Barb, while we're on here, tell Jack we're probably going to skip and wait another week until Modern Warfare comes out.
Yeah, I think we're going to skip on Battlefield 3
We're going to skip Battlefield 3 for now, but so tell him we'll see him in a week. Okay. KC3 says 2 hours of sleep plus working harder than someone else equals, are you reading this?
A lonely life, divorce,
not seeing your kids, poor health. Has no one heard of balance, time, and place for everything? Read that one aloud, RC.
Yeah, I know. KC3. That's pretty good.
Okay. Because, you know, RC's you're at full, man. I mean, I feel like I'm asleep next to you. And I feel like I work a pretty good amount, but next to RC, I feel like I'm like just asleep.
I need to start working smarter.
You need to just sleep. You need to just literally have a meal. RC came out to the house, as I mentioned. We had some salads today. That's the most I've seen RC stop in about a year and a half. Best Ford in Texas says, making one thing yours makes you untouchable. Very good.
I think it's pretty intense that a lot of people have a lot of feedback on this.
Miles Irwin. Miles Irwin. I thought it was my lesser win. Okay. I mean, it's all one. He had it as all one word.
The pen is mightier. Sorry.
All right, Trebek. You had better save me money, Penny. All right. A Jeep that is stuck in the mud will work really hard at getting out. It doesn't mean it's going anywhere. See, now, Miles, you have to admit you got that from your dad, right? That's a good one. That's one of those wisdom of the dads kind of thing. Quirky says it's actually kind of fitting that you started this episode by playing the blues. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that really was the blues.
However, I will say this. It sounds like it's something where it's just like, all right, guys, this is what's happening. And I'm going to have to go rogue here for a second. But it's one of those things that...
He's going rogue.
I got to go rogue here. Sorry. But as I thought about it, I was driving down here and I was getting the guitar and I was doing all that kind of stuff. My opinion on it has changed a little bit because it's one of those things where I'm very, very grateful for everybody who follows. And I talk about this on the Google Post Hangouts and things like that. I'm very grateful that a lot of people are looking at my work. And I'm very grateful that I get to do all of these kinds of things. But I would want to be honest about it and I would want to be great about it. And I'm glad that you kind of are pointing this stuff out because the flip side of that is something that I'm beginning to see online that's kind of bugging me, which is there's a lot of photographers that are out there that are going to turn around and tell you know what? This is how we roll. My camera gets thrown up in the air while I sip some Cristal. It comes down and bam. You know why? Because I'm awesome.
Because I'm awesome.
This is how I roll. And you know what? You can be awesome too. You just got to believe in yourself, be cool, keep it real, and do all these different kinds of things that now you want to get to the next level. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, if I were a guy who were trying to work hard at being a good photographer, I'd be like, oh, wow, I didn't know Be Awesome was what I needed to do.
Why didn't you say so?
Oh, okay, I'm going to go do that right now. I'm going to go be awesome. So it's one of those things where it's like it sounds crappy because it's like we're saying, you know what? Working hard isn't going to do it. Well, what is going to do it? Connections. How do you get connections?
Hey, Sean Welsh has got a great thing about connections. He said, I made my first big app. So Sean Welsh is an app developer for the iPhone, I think Android as well. Sean says, I made my first big apps for Kelby Media Group because I showed up to Photoshop World Vegas back in 2009 with a completed Photoshop World app. He showed it to people and said, I want to do this for your next conference. 3 years, 2 books, and 10 apps later, Sean left his other full-time gig, and his full-time job is now author and an app developer. So
he's wheeling.
He's working. And now I know Sean doesn't get any sleep either. Miles Irwin says he got it from his father-in-law, actually. I work for him. What does that say? Ouch, burn. Ooh. Shot Live Photo says 1, work hard. 2, use social media. 3, follow up with old clients. 4, users groups. 5, talk to vendors. 6, up-to-date portfolio. 7, web presence. 8, blog.
I think that the blog is probably the most important.
Look at that, though. Look at that.
The
Alan.
8-step method.
Now, Alan you're hearing from a guy who's a very, very successful photographer. He's a concert photographer. He's working all the time. And he's doing everything now. He is, Alan's doing every single one of those. He's a book author. He's an editor. He's got a blog. He's got a tremendous web presence. He's a stripper. Brad just wrote stripper. He's not a stripper.
Yes, he's not.
Yes, he's not. So anyway, that's great advice. Can I go over that again really quick, what he said? Because I think that's some of the best advice we've had today.
Absolutely.
It takes hard work. Use social media. Follow up with old clients. Get involved in users groups. Talk to vendors. Keep your portfolio up to date. Have a web presence and blog. I mean, those are all things that all help. And if you do just 2 through 8, you'll automatically fulfill number 1, hard work.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work to do all that stuff.
It's a given.
W. Beam says, Alan, 4 more steps and you have your own 12-step program. Ro Reynolds, the thing that stops most people from achieving success is fear of success. And that could be. I never understood that, because I think, well, I guess we want a success, but then when you get there, you don't know what you're going to do with it.
I don't know. That's always the success. Fearing the success has always sounded like doublespeak to me.
Yeah.
It's always just like, what you want is what you fear, which is what you have when one would want it.
So
I'm
David
like, what?
D says to get me a Red Bull. Am I like really mellow today? Okay.
No.
Let's see.
I don't know. Scott works a lot. Scott's like one of the few people who I'll sit there at like 2:30 in the morning and I'm like, I got an idea. And then all of a sudden, like 10 minutes later, it's like, bing, good idea. I was just thinking, I'm like,
well, that's when I do. That's when I do a lot of my work. I don't want to do my work at 6 o'clock at night when the family's up and everything. It's like I work better at night because I'm not a morning guy. So I like to sleep in, and my wife's pretty good about making sure I don't have to get up really early, so and what time do I come in at work? 10?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, I'm like a 10 kind of guy. What would you say, Brad? 10? Brad gives a thumbs up for. Brad's not here till noon. I don't know what time Brad gets here. He could come in at 2 to 10. I'd never know. Brandon, our buddy Brandon, says, I always thought I would never be able to get anywhere being a 15-year-old. After going to Photoshop World, I met someone from Smugmug, who I'm now subcontracting for, doing customization and actually making a decent amount of money. Photoshop World is the bridge any creative needs.
And he's
congratulations.
15.
He's 15. All right, you know who else?
Brandon's my project. He's like this kid that I bring him everywhere. I'm just like, you got to meet Brandon. Brandon's the guy.
Oh,
Brandon's got to do this. You got to
man.
look at this.
So Eric, our buddy from Sweden. So he comes
First
to Photoshop World. He comes all the way from Sweden to Photoshop World, and he sits me down in Vegas, and he says, "Look, I'm Swedish. I'm going to do something very American. We're not like this, but if I came to America, could I be a guest on your show?" I'm like, dude, I'll have you on every show. So he's coming here in December, and he's going to be on everything that we've got.
That's awesome. He said, I have some fish.
But here's a guy who's flying from Sweden. How old is he? 19?
He's 19 now.
19.
He's 19 now?
He just graduated from high school.
He just graduated from high school.
Great.
Yeah, and he's doing web design and all kinds of stuff. I mean, he's a great, great guy. And he's very Swedish. I mean, he's kind of mellow, and he's kind of flying another, but super nice guy. Anyway, he's flying to America, 19-year-old kid flying here. And he's going to be on the shows, and he's just, hey, I want to do this, and I want to get my name out, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So he's very, very cool. KC3 said that was not critical of Scott or RC. Hey, we did not take it that way.
No, not at all.
But honestly, I don't know how you guys do it. I've attempted overdoing it in college and lost my job. Not good results. Life lesson learned. It is a little bit hard balancing your family life and all this, and I think it's. Luckily, because I own the company, I can, yesterday I had a parent-teacher conference. So I'm able to just leave. And I think that's the biggest blessing. Like, a lot of times I'll go to my daughter's school or my son's school. I'm like one of the only dads there. It's all these moms and like me and one other dad, or there'll be a grandfather or something. So I think one thing that's helped me a lot, and we're that way too. If anybody here needs to go, like, look, my kid's going to, my kid needs something at school, like Matt does things with his kids, we tell them, no. Get back to your desk. No, we're pretty good about that because we have kids and we understand. And so I think that luckily we all live pretty close, and we're able to go and do things like that. Now, your daughter's not in school, but let me tell you, it's going to suck your life out like you can't believe.
Not good.
Yeah, my son's on crew. He rows crew. 15 hours of practice a week. Wow. On Saturdays at 6:30 in the morning.
Wow.
45 minutes from my home.
So that's where he does his blog posts.
Okay. Mark says, this is the most depressing episode of The Grid ever. I'm going to throw my camera in the lake. Mark, don't do that. Throw your camera on eBay.
KEH. That'll be really, really
Monty
good.
says, when has success been difficult? When hasn't? I was going to say, what? When hasn't success been difficult? This isn't a new problem. Very good. Very, very good.
And it's one of those things that I think it's one of those things where it's like, if it sounds like it's negative, that's just because it is. Suck it up. No, I'm totally kidding. That's not where it is.
No, but we don't want to have a negative show, Nancy. What we wanted to do was let people. There's a lot of these motivational speakers that are just like you said, you can do it. Work harder. Push through. Get up at 5. Stay up till midnight and all. I don't want photographers to think, if I just put in 22-hour days, I'm going to be a success.
It's disingenuous.
Because it is disingenuous. I think there are a lot of people who can make a success out of a 22-hour day, and there's some people that can't fill 4 hours of their day. They're willing to work so much more, but they just can't. What I hope to do with today's show was to give the advice to photographers that if you're asking me personally, my advice for you is to get connections, to really, really get out there. My thing is, don't work on your camera settings. Don't spend the next year going, I'm going to get so good. I'm going to learn what that custom menu F11 thing is. I think that's our natural thing to do. The reason I'm not a success is because I don't know the menus on my camera. That's not the reason why you're a success. You're also not a success because there's a wedding photographer in town that's a soccer mom that stole your business. There's all the it's all the things. It's the things that Alan listed, and also I didn't want it to be a depressing program, but it is kind of depressing. We started with the blues, we're going to end with the blues, but we have a poll.
No, but
we have a poll. We have a couple questions. I just wanted to say something really, really quickly again.
Please do, Nancy.
We got a lot. Okay, I know some of you are being sarcastic and some of you people are joking, but whenever we bring up someone who's doing well, who's young, like Eric or Brandon or even Sean, there's just all these comments. Oh, I hate that person. It's like, oh, come on.
Nah, they don't.
folks.
I don't think that they mean that in that way.
Yeah, don't hate. I mean, just
No, you should be happy for other people's
inspire.
successes.
Yeah. Just take a little inspiration from that.
And you know what? And I'm looking at this entire show. This isn't a negative show. Like, this is actually a very, very positive show, because the things that you need to do to be able to make the changes to this stuff are very, very different. Like Alan, I think, hit it straight on the head. Having a blog where you show your work, like, there's no reason why you shouldn't have a Google Plus profile. There's no reason why you shouldn't be talking to the people out on Google Plus and going, hey, I see that you post a thing a day. Could I write something for you? Hey, talk to this one photographer in this local area. There's this other meetup group. Can I come and show some stuff at a meetup group? Can I go take a look at over here? And just build your networking connections. That's going to be infinitely better for you than to sit there and go, stupid camera, get in my head.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
or just, I'm not working hard enough. I'm just not doing it. You know, I bought a motivational tape and it told me to work 50 hours a day.
We live in a day and age right now where all of this stuff is happening on the internet. You don't have to worry about mailers and prints and customization and labels and getting things out to the post office to be able to send all of this kind of stuff out. You can do all of this stuff on the internet. You can talk and connect and relate and socialize and share all of that stuff on the internet. And the more you do that, the more connected you're going to become. The more connected you're going to appear. And the more connected you appear, the more people are going to want to connect with you.
No, it's true.
Those things, and that's not a negative thing. That's the rule. That's the thing that nobody's telling you.
Yeah. Hey, we have a poll we want you to take real quick. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we are doing Ask Us Embarrassingly Personal Questions. We'll take a few of those, and we'll squirm. So you can go ahead and start sending those in now if you'd like. And so our poll is, what do you think is the secret to success as a photographer? And don't just go by what we're talking about here. You don't have to support our thoughts. Give us your own thoughts. Your choices are A, learning your equipment; B, working on your creativity; C, it's based on how hard you work; D, it's based on your connections; E, it's based on sheer talent; and F, it's based on sheer luck. And by the way, can I tell you something? I'll be the first one to tell you, a lot of my success was based on sheer luck. We happened to do something at the right time. A door opened. Can I tell you about a lucky thing that happened to us that really made, and I talked about this in an interview I did recently. It's real quick before we take a break. We were advertising. We were trying to advertise in Adobe magazine. So Adobe used to have a magazine with a circulation, I kid you not, of 460,000 people. A printed magazine. It was free. All you had to do was request it. It was terrific. And it was around for many years. And my favorite part, they had a Q&A. And I'd always turn to the Q&A part, which is why, that's why Photoshop User Magazine and Light It and all have a
Q&A.
A Q&A, because I always thought that was the coolest part of the magazine. So anyway, I had been talking to this guy. We were taking little small, tiny ads. And one day the guy calls me because we kind of made a relationship. I mean, I was a drop in the bucket to him. But he knew what we were trying to do, and we kind of became friends, even though I was probably the most annoying little advertiser he had. And he said, in the magazine, they had a reader response card, right? So like, it was a reader response card. Well, you can't just stick a single card in the magazine and have it stapled. You have to have it in the magazine like this, and there's a staple. So there was a reader response card in the back, and then there was a 2-page ad for another publication on page 8 and 9 of the magazine. That guy dropped out. He'd been there since the beginning. I had seen that ad 100 times. And he called me up and he gave me an insane deal on those 2 pages. And our numbers went through the roof. That was total luck. It was just one of those things where he gave us a 2-page ad for half of what a 1-page ad would have cost. But since they had to pay for this anyway, They didn't really have any money into this, so he gave me a deal. And it was one of those things where it was luck. Had I not been at my desk the day he called, had I been out, had I didn't, and I couldn't maybe convince the rest of us to put up for, because it was a lot of money for us, but it wasn't, you know, it was nothing for him. But it was what launched Nap off, was that 2-page ad. We have some answers back on our poll. 55% say it is connections. 23% say it's your creativity. 11% say it's sheer luck, and boy, I'm with you on that. 9% feel it's only how hard you work. 2% feel it's learning your equipment. And 0, nobody thought that your success is just based on your sheer talent. Which is that goes back to what I was talking about, the guitar player and the drummer and these guys that are brilliant musicians and they're literally completely out of work. Now, hey, I will say the guitar player has become a huge success. And the drummer, huge success. Drummers, every time I talk to him, I'm in Australia, I'm on tour on a Broadway show, The guitar player is not only a professor at a university teaching guitar. He has like 6 of his own CDs, and every time I hear about him, he's the featured guitarist with an orchestra where the whole orchestra goes out to support him. So later in life, they become tremendous successes. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to pimp our sponsor big time, because I didn't mention them the whole show, but then we're going to answer some questions that we're not comfortable with. Stick around. We will be right back here on The Grid, coming up with Ask Us Some Really Personal Questions.
Hi, I'm Faye Circus, and I'm here to talk about my tour, The Art of Photo Painting. Photo painting is a simulation of traditional painting. Imagine taking your paintbrush, but your virtual paintbrush, and dipping it into a photograph, and transforming pixel by pixel into a painting. Whether it be oil or watercolor, painting the eyes step by step, how to bring soul to those eyes, portraits, landscapes. You can do whatever you want. That's what I'm here to teach you. I've got a lot in store for a great day to spend with you. We have dates all across the country. See you soon.
Hey, we are back. The questions are pouring in, and there's some doozies. But before we answer those, I just want to tell you, stop what you're doing. Go to mpix.com. Absolutely. So MPix is an online lab. It was funny because I went up to Joe we're at Photo Plus, and MPix had a very big booth, and all I'm standing there talking to my buddy Joe, a person walks up and goes, "Are you a printing lab?" And he goes, "Yep." I go, "Maybe it should be MPix." A print lab. But anyway, they are an unbelievable print lab. And so what we like about them is you go and sign up for an account. You take your image. You drag it on there. If you do it by 11 in the morning, they deliver it the next day. And I just did that with some posters, and they came out great.
It's shocking at the amount of stuff. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you could either struggle with this stuff on your own, or just forget about it. All you have to do is just do your processing, send it over to MPix. It shows up in nice boxes. Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful work.
All right. So I'm going to make an offer to you guys that I would not normally make. And this is just for this week. I know that a lot of people out there have never sent anything to a lab. They've never printed a single thing. And if you've never done it, the emotional experience of getting a print, once you hold one, you'll be printing all the time. Am I right? I mean, RC prints like a dog. He's printing all the time. Absolutely. So anyway, but I'm going to make you an offer. I've made this offer a number of times, but in smaller groups. If you have never been to MPix, all right, if you've never gone to MPix, never had anything printed by them, or MPix Pro, which is their little more pro line, or Miller's Imaging, here's what I want you to do. Pick one of your favorite shots. Go sign up for an account at mpix.com. It's free. Sign up for the account. And order a 16 by 20 or a 17 by 22, a 16 by 20 print. Don't get an 8 by 10. That's stupid. Get a big print.
Go big. Go home.
If you get the print and you think that they did a bad job, you don't love it. You're just like, I don't love it. They will not give you your money back. But I will. I will write you a personal check for the print if you get it and you really think this isn't any good. They screwed up the print job. It's just awful. I will refund your money myself. So you just would let me know here on the grid, Scott, I tried MPix, I got the print, it sucked. Boom, I'll write you a check.
Nice.
Now, I have to tell you, and Nancy knows this, I've offered this in live classes, live seminars, and other venues many times. I know hundreds of people that have taken me up on it. No one has ever, ever, ever come back and said, my print sucked, I want my money back. Because I wouldn't just say this to hundreds of thousands of people and take a chance on that I would lose, $1.6 million. So go to MPix.
You're
Only
going to
for
be
this
very,
week.
very happy you did.
You have to create a new account. You have to be a new customer. So if you're already a customer, you already know their stuff rocks. So it's not fair because you know that their stuff is excellent. So go be a new customer. Go sign up. Drag one over. You can have it. Can't have it tomorrow. It's too late. This is Wednesday.
By Friday.
You could do it tomorrow by 11 a.m. and you would be holding your print on Friday. Think about it. All right. Hey, we had one more comment for See Right Through. And it's a whole show into itself, but I'm going to read it anyway. See Right Through says, should you work for free to get your name out there? Donate your services and time. Is free publicity and word of mouth worth losing money? That's a whole show. That's a show right there. Somebody write that one down because the whole topic of should you work for free, I don't like it. I don't like it. But there are certain cases you could make where, you do some charity
Like
pro
Help
bono
Portrait.
work. What'd you say?
Help Portrait.
Like Help Portrait.
But Help Portrait is a little different. Help Portrait, you're not working. That's
You're
a
not working.
charitable
That's a
event.
charitable-
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like there
But
was
you're there
this
networking.
guy. Oh, geez, was it our friend Leaf? What's his
Leaf?
name?
Fireleaf. Alan. Brucey.
Alan.
Yeah,
Brewski, yeah.
he met a lot of you guys through Help Portrait.
Yeah, that's how we met Eric.
Yeah,
that
Eric
is not-
Eric Valland.
But
Eric
Help
Fallon.
Portrait, but Alan, that's not how I met Alan and introduced him. This is actually an interesting story
I
because
love
it talks about doors and connections.
Yeah.
I was hanging out. My wife was pregnant with Sabine, and we were doing a natural childbirth class. So we were doing this natural childbirth class, of which this girl was coming with another girl who was a friend of hers. So this girl, Emily had a friend named Nicole.
Let me
and-
write this down.
Yeah, it was this one. It was this
Emily
one
has a friend named Nicole.
who was having another child around
child.
the same age as Sabine.
Okay.
So then Emily said, "Hey, listen, I know somebody who has kids. Could you come over?" So Jen went over with Emily to this other girl, Nicole's house, and as she was there, she's looking around, and she turns around, and she goes, "Hey, wait a minute, that's Photoshop User Magazine." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you know what? My husband's a big fan. He's a big this. He's a big thing." And she turned around and said, "Your husband should meet my husband." And that's how we hit it off.
I didn't-
Again,
Wow.
connections.
Small world.
Yeah.
So really what you're saying is, to really make it in this business, you need to go to natural childbirth.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You have to.
All
Go
right. So
Bradley.
here's some of these questions that we're not supposed to answer. Scott, what is the background of your beautiful wife's name? It is so unusual and great. I love her name. I think her name so fits her. It's a beautiful name. So it is a combination of her mother and her father's name. Her father is Kleber. Her mother is Barbara Calibra.
Ah,
So
that's interesting.
There you go. Jock says, Scott, just how successful have you been in writing books world? I've done okay. For 6 years, I was the #1 best-selling computer book author, but they used to include photography books in there, and they took them out. So last year, I was the world's #1 best-selling photography book author, and I've sold over 1 million copies of 1.1 million of just my digital photography book series. So that's,
I didn't know that number.
I just got that number like 2 weeks ago because I only get the single sales number. And so my marketing person at Peach Pit said, if we add in your bundles, like your volumes 1, 2, 3 sold as a set, volumes 1 and 2 sold as a set, special sets sold at Barnes & Noble, because we do different editions and different things and all. If we add them all together, it's over 1.1 million. I know, I about blacked out.
Wow.
So I thought that's kind of cool. So I've it's certainly helped a lot. So it helped pay for this set.
It's a real
All right.
set.
And now I will say the money from the books don't just all funnel to me. We have 80 employees here that the money gets spread around.
We thank you.
We have we have editors. We do all the layout and everything in house. So we actually edit the books. We do all the graphics. We do the layout. We do the color conversions. We do everything, and we send the whole book ready to go, like on a disc. Here you go, and then they print it and distribute it for us. So we do a lot of the work in house. All those people want to get paid. It's crazy. I know. I'm like, you should just hang out and do this for fun like RC does. This one's for RC. RC, how many photos do you have in your iPad portfolio? Then they want to know basically how's it constructed? Is it multiple albums or just one big album?
I have multiple albums in my portfolio. So basically,
What app do you use? Can I ask that one?
yeah, you can. I don't have an app actually.
You use the photos?
Yeah, what I do is
Apple's photo app?
in your no, not even that. What I do is I'll take, when iTunes, when you go into iTunes and it says where do you sync your photos?
Right. You
It
say a
says either
folder.
pictures, say a folder, and then I pick a folder. So I have a folder on my computer called iPad Images. Inside of there, I put a whole bunch of subfolders,
Yeah, I do that.
and then in each of those subfolders,
But
I
don't
put
you click
images.
on the photos thing to see them?
Yeah, no, but if you go
Yeah,
in
so they're in
here,
the Apple Photo app.
oh yeah, inside of the Apple Photo app. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So then inside of here, you go to Photos.
Well, because the
and then
reason
in
I asked
here,
RC is because there's a number of portfolio apps.
Yeah, no, I don't
There's
like
Folio
portfolio.
and different. Yeah, okay. So
yeah, I just used the regular folders,
How many,
and then
how many portfolios do we have?
let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 9 different folders, of which there's probably 12 images each. Do I show all of those? No.
Yeah.
It all depends on who I'm
You
going
don't show
to.
them 120.
No, if I'm going to try to get an HDR thing, I only show my HDR portfolio.
Okay, good.
If I'm going to my people, I show my
they're
people.
segmented.
They don't see anything else.
Stevie UK says, question to Scott, what's it like to be the coolest man in photography? Well, Stevie, I got to tell you, I certainly do not feel like I feel like the oldest guy in photography. But thank you. It's very kind of you to say, but I don't feel like that at all. I wake up in the morning and feel the same way everybody else does. Oh, God, I can't believe it's morning. I need a cup of coffee. Okay. Jim T., what is your favorite subject to photograph and your favorite location? I can answer that one. I'll let RC answer that one as well. Right now, my favorite subject to photograph is NFL football, hands down. And my favorite location, I love to shoot at Soldier Field in Chicago. That is a very special place for me. I'm a Bears fan, and when I come out the tunnel and I've got to shoot there a number of times, including the NFC Championship game last year. When I come out of the tunnel there, I just have the biggest smile, and I have friends up there and know people that work in the stadium and stuff. Nat member is one of the security guards right there as he stops you from going in the Bears locker room, and he's a Nat member, and he's come to Photoshop World, and Bill Smith, I know the team photographer, and other people that I've met over the years,
Right.
and
The only game I've ever been to, the only football game I've ever been to is at Soldier Field.
Yeah, isn't that a great stadium?
I like it.
It's an amazing stadium. All right, RC, your favorite subject to photograph and your favorite location?
My favorite subject to photograph, I know it's going to sound very, very cliche, but it's my daughter right now.
Yeah, she's a doll.
It's one of those things where it's like, there's all these projects, and this one project that I have is just trying to get her as she's
Okay,
growing
but
up. And
let's
doing
take the kids out of it.
All right. If you take the kids out of it, my favorite thing to photograph is people. I'm an environmental portrait guy. I like having a person and having the environment around them. So if it's like a blacksmith inside of a facility and things like
Right.
that.
Right.
Favorite location has to be New York. I absolutely adore being able to shoot in New York.
He does.
It's one of those things where it's like I feel so bad when I post a whole bunch of images and I'm like, oh my God, it's all these New York images, but I just love shooting there. It's one of those things where I think it's cool.
Very good. What's Scott's middle name? It's Gregory. So,
Nice. I don't
you.
have a middle name.
really?
Yeah, I'm like one of the few like
It's just
Spanish
RC
people.
Concepcion? No?
Yeah, everybody in my family is like
Not,
Antonio, Roberto, Luis,
Can
Manuel.
I give you
blah,
one?
blah,
Do you
blah.
care? How do you like Consuelo?
No, I don't like Consuelo. I was gonna be named Francisco.
Francisco, I like that.
Pancho.
Pancho is good. Okay. What was the photo you were most proud of that was rejected, and how did you get over it? That's a tough one. Mostly when my photos get rejected, they'll get rejected from a magazine article. Like they're doing a story on me. So I send in 10 photos, and then when you send in photos, it's interesting to see which ones they're going to choose. Like I just had like an 8-page spread in a UK magazine, a photography magazine. I sent in 18 photos, and then they chose these different ones, and you're like, it's weird because they won't always. You're like, I wish I wish they hadn't chosen that one. Which say, why'd you send it? Well, I sent 18 photos because they wanted 18 photos, but they're only going to use 10. So I don't know which one I was, the one that was most proud of that was rejected. That's a tough one. I'm just going to have to draw a blank. RC, do you?
There's only one picture that I've shown somebody that they flat out rejected, and that was Brad rejecting a picture of my mom.
Is it the one in front of your mom with
in front of a computer? Yeah. I had to send some stuff out to an award thing, and Brad turned around and said, "Yeah, I'd get rid of this one." I was like, "How'd I get over it?" I walked out of Brad's office after punching him in the chest.
All right, hey, we got to go here in a second. Do you donate blood? I had to stop because of the whole syphilis thing. SEA Photography. All right, we finally got a laugh.
Oh,
finally, it's taken a long time. All right, question for Scott and RC. What was your biggest failure? Don't hold back. What did you learn from it? Oh, my biggest failure. What was something that I really just tanked? Now, if you're asking photographically or just, I guess, in life. So your biggest failure. Well, I know something I failed at that I didn't do very well. So before I was here, I was a financial consultant. And I'm not a cold caller. I'm just not. I'm just not a cold caller. And I thought I was pretty good at everything but that aspect of it. And that, to be a basically stockbroker, it requires, especially at first, a lot of cold calling. And I failed at cold calling in a staggering way. So that was a very big failure for me, big enough to where I actually got out of that business altogether after have been with a couple different brokerage firms. I started at Merrill Lynch, wound up at A.G. Edwards, and finally with a large bank. And I was not good at it. My wife convinced me. She said, "You need to be doing something creative." And she literally convinced me to quit my job and go start something creative, which turned out to be a graphic design firm. And it was the best thing ever. And I convinced her to come to work with me. And we still work together today.
Nice.
RC, what was your complete bomb-o? Make it worse than mine so I don't feel so bad.
My complete bombing was, I don't know if it was a bombing, but it was definitely a failure. It was when I first started career-wise, I was an English teacher. I was a high school English teacher. And I did it for a year, and I walked away from it. I couldn't handle it. Basically, I graduated school when I graduated high school when I was 15. I was in college when I was 16. I was teaching when I was 20. And I was in front of a classroom and I was teaching like senior English. And the people that I'm teaching are like a year and a half, 2 years ahead of me. And I just couldn't hack it. I couldn't mentally, as much as I knew everything, I just wasn't mentally developed enough to be able to just be able to do it. It felt weird. It just felt really weird. And I was just like, you know what? I got to kind of go see the world.
Well, that doesn't sound like a real failure. See, I would have thought.
But it's my biggest regret. It's one of my biggest regrets.
I would have thought, really?
Yeah, I've always thought about, like, at one point, like being an adjunct and teaching part-time English in a university.
Yeah, but you could so do that, but you just wouldn't do English. You'd do something else, photography or design.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? See, I would have thought the whole thing where you got kicked out of the Chippendales. I thought that would have been, because that was, I remember
that guy took my tie.
Let me tell you what, because he had to give up the little things too, and the string that goes around your arm.
I was doing the little bunny tail dance.
He was in tears. I would have thought it was that. Scott and RC, how long did it take you to get your Photoshop skills to where you were able to just use it to create? Was in your mind? You didn't have to look something up. So I started Photoshop late to the game. I started at version 2. And the first time I taught it was version 2.5. And so by the time I was teaching it, I felt, I could, well, it was layers that set me free. So layers came in Photoshop 3. I would say it was probably 4 years of using it a lot. Now I had to use it for my everyday business. It is a lot, Photoshop's a lot different when you have to go to work in the morning and you launch Photoshop and you're in Photoshop all day long. We were running a small ad agency / design firm. And so we were in Photoshop all day long. My wife and I just Photoshop. So if you devote that much time, not to just say I'm going to learn it, but to having to learn on the job, it comes very, very quickly. RC?
Yeah, it took me a little bit to be able to do it, but I can't really remember because it was one of those things where I was always doing it for work. And then what would happen is people would turn around and just be like, hey, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that. And I'd always teach it. And I think that teaching it was always something that always solidified a lot of my knowledge. So, I mean, it took a couple of years, but I feel like I can teach it better than I can use it. which is kind of weird.
He's pretty good. Let's see. Is it hard living the life of rock stars and being stalked everywhere you go? But seriously, does being approached on a nonstop basis get to you? Not really. I was at PPE, and the only time it's bothered me in a long time, because I love people. I'm a people person. So when people come up, or if they notice me in the airport, I've been boarding planes and the pilot go, "Hey, I've got your book." So it's weird because it happens in the weirdest places when you're least expect it. But I love people, so I'm happy. But I was at Photo Plus, I'm having a meeting with my editor, and I literally have a mouthful of food, and a woman walks up, and I'm like, and she's like, I'm sorry, and I had food in my hands. It was really awkward. I just felt bad because I wasn't able to say hi, nice to meet you, until I could eat all my food. So I felt stupid, but I didn't mind her coming up. She was very nice.
All right.
As like you are sometimes.
Yes.
So you don't mind it. You like it.
No, yeah, I think it's
We
really,
like people.
It's taken truthfully,
Brad.
it's taken a little bit of an adjustment for me,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it was like, I felt like at first I was walking and I was taking a look at stuff and people would recognize me, and it felt like Sanjaya. It was like all of a sudden people were like, "Hey, you're that guy.
Yeah, where do I know
with
you
the
from?"
And I was like, "Look, it's me. They recognize me." And now it's like it got to a point where all of a sudden I was just like, wow, there's a lot of people watching me, and it made me a little nervous. But now I'm actually a little bit better about it. And I'm actually pretty shy when it comes to stuff sometimes.
All right, we got to wrap this up. Scott, why is it you don't like seafood, but you like City Fish? I like City Fish, which is a great restaurant near here, very famous, because they have an appetizer of this filet with this cheese over it that is just insane.
Filet Madiga.
Filet Madiga. Oh, it's fantastic. It's a great restaurant. They have all kinds of other things that are just terrific. Great salads, great steaks. Really, they have weird steaks. The blueberries topping on the steaks.
Yeah, the crumble blue cheese.
Crumble blue cheese. They're very, very good. Glenn Dewis asked Scott, "How did it feel to be the only guy in a London pub drinking Coke?" By the way, Glenn, it was Diet Coke, or what you call Coke Light. I felt extremely cool. Ford in Best Texas, what's your KDR on Black Ops? I'm not going to say that. My kill-death ratio is not very good.
We enjoy it.
We enjoy it.
That's it. We enjoy it.
Yeah, my KDR.
But we're not very good.
My son knows exactly what his is to the point. I try not to never look. What was your first job? My first job was my first real job, not the job that my dad gave me for summers because nobody would hire me. My first job was teaching drums, and then I became the assistant manager of a music store. So I was the drum teacher and kind of wound up getting the gig as assistant manager. So
how old are you there?
I was 18.
Okay. So like that's your very first job.
Well, I started drumming. I was teaching drums at 17, and then I got was working there full time every day, come into the office kind of thing. By the time I was still 17. I graduated from high school when I was 17. So I was working there full time that summer. So worked in a music store. What was yours?
I actually, I had two jobs. I was I used to pack.
One of them is.
I used to pack bags at a supermarket.
Okay.
And,
everybody did that.
And then I worked in a Mr. Softy ice cream.
That's the one. I've heard. We're gonna have to have a whole show about stories from RC working in an ice cream truck. Man,
Lord.
there were wild stories.
Mind you, I was 14 driving this Mr.
Driving
Softy
in New
ice
York
cream.
City, 14 years old, driving the Mr. Softy truck. It's only the beginning.
Yeah.
What's the most annoying question you receive from people? There's so, what's your favorite f-stop? I think is way up there. What lens should I buy? Is just an open-ended question. It's like, what kind of car should I buy? But that's what's your favorite f-stop's way up there. Does Scott know his one-liners and funny remarks are terrible when translated? That's why I buy the English versions, but something to learn not to. Yeah, I have a very American sense of humor. I know that it doesn't transfer into other languages, but it has not stopped the sales of my translations. Wink. Okay, Christopher Arnold Designs. Not so personal questions. How often do you update your portfolios? I'll go for a while and not do it, but I've been updating mine much more frequently. And RC, you keep yours updated. He does his daily, and sometimes he's like Amazon's book rankings every hour.
I'm updating right now.
TX Sports Picks or Texas Sports Picks says, Scott, how did you get your face major success that really pushed him into mainstream? I published my own first book. My own first book was called Photoshop Down and Dirty Tricks, and we published it and printed it at a local printer, and I basically sold it to all these different bookstores. And I got Amazon to pick it up, and it sold insano crazy amounts. And Peach Pit came and said, we'll make you an offer that you will have to stop publishing your own books. And they did.
Nice.
I've been with them ever since.
Nice,
So that was
nice,
it.
nice.
We are so far over time, it's not even funny. Hey, the big news, Perfect Photo Suite from On One Software just shipped.
That's
So
right.
go check it out. I think they'll allow you to download it and stuff. It's very, very cool.
We have presets in there.
We have presets in there, and it just shipped. And I got to spend some time with it when I was out in Portland, where they're based, and just crazy stuff. Go check it out. Go to ononesoftware.com. Really, really great stuff. We've got giveaways. Nancy,
Yes.
we're giving away my Lightest Shooter Retoucher book. Let's give one copy to the people live right now, and one copy to the people who are watching later when the show is rebroadcast. And Nancy,
Yes.
let's make darn sure. Go kill whoever you have to kill within our organization to make sure this show is actually rebroadcast tomorrow. Because for some reason, it goes up like Friday.
It takes longer to compress when it's a long show, like today.
Hey, they got all night to compress it. Brad's like over there. Compress it.
That's a good Brad.
That was a good Brad, wasn't it?
Right?
So
That's
just
what he
like him.
sounds like.
All right, Nancy, tell
Yes.
them how did they win?
Okay, well, the one we're going to give away live, the easiest way to do it is via Twitter, because that's the only way I have two-way communication. So I will take the 5th tweet right now about the Grid Live using the Grid Live hashtag.
All right.
And then to win after the live show, tomorrow when the show goes up, leave a comment, and then we will pick one person from the comments, and that is how you will win afterwards. And I am going to pick the winner right now, and it is, oh my goodness, it's Rick Flohr, RIKKFLOHR. I'll DM you shortly.
How about the seminar ticket?
And he tweeted 5.
Oh,
Go figure.
seminar
Tickets, we're going to do the exact same way we always do. Send out a tweet, use the Grid Live, and mention Scott's seminar, your seminar that we're giving away a ticket to, correct? And I will pick one tomorrow to give away via Twitter. I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do. And that's it. Today's episode has been brought
Well,
to you
we've run out of
by...
time, folks. Couldn't reach my whammy bar. Not fair. Thank you guys for tuning in to the longest freaking show.
it's always me. I always
Why is it always so long when you're on?
I'm sorry.
You know what it is, RC? It gives me the blues. Thanks, everybody. It's RC's soothing voice.
Oh, how do they find us?
They can find us on Google+, on Facebook, on Twitter. You're About RC everywhere, right?
Yeah. G+RC.com. You can get to my you can get to my Google Plus from there.
And I'm sure they'll put up some way they can find me on Google+.
Nice.
I can't reach my whammy bar.
This week's episode of The Grid is sponsored by Impix. Shoot today, upload tonight, we ship tomorrow. Manfrotto. Imagine more. On One Software, software that gets you back to shooting.
Adorama, more than a camera store. And Tiffin, helping create the world's greatest images.